My son died 15 years ago in a devastating accident. I saw him in the casket, felt his cold skin, and tossed dirt into his grave. But last night at 3:27 in the morning, my cell phone rang. His name flashed on the screen, and when I answered, I heard his confused voice asking, "Mom, where am I? It's completely dark in here." How can your heart keep beating when you hear the voice of someone you buried? But before I continue, check if you're subscribed to the channel and write in the comments where you're watching this video from. We love to know how far our stories are reaching. My name is Aller Vance, and for 15 years, I lived with a hole in my chest where my heart used to be. My son Zion was only 17 years old when he died in a motorcycle crash. A drunk driver ran a red light on a rainy night and hit him head-on. In that moment, my knees buckled when the phone rang at 11:42 p.m. It was the hospital. Miss Ara Vance, mother of Zion Vance. That single question already held all the answers I didn't want to hear. They say there's a mother's instinct that warns us when something terrible happens to our children. Right then, even before the doctor finished the sentence, I already knew. It was as if an invisible thread that had always connected me to Zion had been abruptly severed. The viewing was a blur. I remember sitting beside the casket, unable to cry, staring at my boy's face. He looked like he was sleeping, except for the grayish tone of his skin and the heavy makeup trying to conceal the bruises. I spent the whole night caressing his ice-cold hand. Uselessly hopping, his fingers would close around mine, as they did when he was little and needed protection. At the cemetery, I tossed a white rose onto the casket as it was lowered into the ground. The sound of the dirt hitting the wood was the moment reality finally slammed into me like a freight train. My son was dead. I would never hear his laugh or feel his hug again. I would never see him graduate, marry, or have children. All that remained of 17 years of life were photographs, clothes with his scent, and memories that would fade with time. Zion's father couldn't handle it. 6 months after the funeral, Darius asked for a divorce. He said he couldn't look at me without remembering the son we lost. Maybe he was right. I couldn't look at him either without feeling that someone was missing between us. Our 20-year marriage ended with a signature on cold papers, another death to add to my collection of losses. While Darius moved on, he remarried and had other children. I stayed trapped in that grave. Zion's room remained untouched, a sanctuary frozen in time. His clothes were still in the closet, his worn sneakers beside the bed, his books on the shelf and on the desk, the math homework he never finished. I couldn't get rid of anything. Every object seemed to hold a piece of him that I refused to lose. Every Sunday, without fail, I visited his grave with fresh flowers. I cleaned the headstone, pulled the weeds, and talked to him as if he could hear me. I told him about the week, the little things that happened, the news of the world. Sometimes I brought a book and read aloud because Zion always loved it when I read to him before bed. You should move on, people told me, as if it were simple to leave behind the child who grew inside my womb, as if there were a deadline for a mother's grief. I tried therapy, support groups, antidepressants. Nothing healed that wound. I only learned to coexist with the pain, to carry it as a constant companion. For 15 years, I kept Zion's cell phone number active. I paid the bill every month just so I could call occasionally and hear the voicemail message in his teenage voice. "Hey, you've reached Zion. Leave a message and I'll call you back. Thanks." Those few seconds of audio were like a portal to a world where he still existed, where his voice still vibrated in the air. Maybe it was madness, but it was my way of keeping him alive. People moved on. His friends graduated, got married, and had kids. The world kept turning without Zion in it. I kept breathing, working as a kindergarten teacher, existing in a limbo between life and death. I wasn't truly alive, just existing out of inertia, counting the days until I could be reunited with my son again. That's when it happened on a Wednesday, August 14th, 15 years after the accident. It was exactly 3:27 in the morning when my cell phone rang, pulling me from a restless sleep. In the darkness of the room, the screen's glow illuminated the name I never expected to see. Zion. No, it wasn't Zion. Do not answer. As I had renamed the contact years ago when I would call the number just to hear the voicemail. It was just Zion, as if someone had restored the original contact. My heart rate skyrocketed, beating against my ribs like a caged animal. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. It couldn't be real. It had to be a dream, a glitch, some technical failure. Or maybe sanity had finally abandoned me altogether after years of living with the ghost of loss. The phone kept ringing relentlessly. 5, 6 rings. On the 7th, something inside me snapped. I answered for several seconds. I only heard slow, hesitant human breathing. "Hello," I whispered, my voice failing, more silence. And then, "Mom." The voice was his. There was no mistaking it. The same tone, the same way he'd slightly draw the word mom. "Mom, where am I? It's completely dark in here." The air froze in my lungs. The room's walls seemed to contract around me. This couldn't be happening. Zion, that was all I could manage as my entire body trembled. "Yeah, it's me. I don't know where I am. I can't see anything. I'm cold. What happened to me?" I switched on the lamp beside the bed with shaking fingers, as if the light could dispel this madness. My mind was firing in 1,000 different directions. It could be a cruel joke, someone who had stolen his number, an auditory hallucination caused by medication and sleepless nights. But that voice, I would recognize that voice anywhere. "Zion, is that really you?" I asked, tears streaming down my face. How is this possible? I don't know, Mom." His voice sounded distant, confused. I remember the crash. I remember the rain, the car lights coming right at me, and then nothing, just darkness. And now I'm here, but I don't know where here is. I can't see anything. I feel like I'm trapped. A sob escaped my throat. I jumped up, stumbling across the room while holding the phone like a lifeline. "Zion, you died 15 years ago. I buried you." Silence on the other end. A silence so dense I could almost touch it. "No, Mom, I can't be dead. I'm talking to you. I'm thinking. I'm feeling. I just can't move. Everything is tight around me." I felt a chill run down my spine. Tight like a coffin, my God. Could it be a hospital mistake? Someone declared dead prematurely. Stories of people being buried alive swirled in my mind in a torrent of horror. But it was impossible. I saw him at the viewing. I touched his cold skin. He was buried 15 years ago. He couldn't be alive after all this time. "Where are you right now?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "What do you see around you?" "Nothing. It's totally dark. I can feel wood. I'm lying down on something hard. There's a weird smell like dirt and mold. Mom, I'm scared." My blood froze in my veins. He was describing a casket. How could he know that? How could he be conscious after 15 years? "Calm down, my son." The words came out automatically. Mother's instinct overriding the panic. "I'm going to help you. Just tell me how I can find you. I don't know. I just remember the accident and then waking up here." "Mom, how long did you say it's been?" 15 years, Zion." My voice broke. "You died in 2010. I heard his breathing quicken, turning into desperate sobs. "It can't be. It can't. I'm 17. How could I have lost 15 years of my life? I grabbed the dresser to keep from falling. The situation was absurd, impossible, and yet it was happening. The voice of my son, my dead son, was sounding through the phone with the same clarity as when he was alive. "Zion, I'm going to find you, okay? I'm going to find a way." Even I didn't believe what I was saying. But the desperation in his voice drove me to promise anything. "Just don't hang up. Please don't hang up. The battery's dying, Mom." The panic was palpable in his voice. The phone's flashing. "I don't want to be left alone in here." "Wait, Zion, how are you calling me? Where did you get a phone?" The questions exploded in my mind, searching for some logic in that madness. It was in my pocket, my old cell phone. I don't know how it still works, but the screen says the battery is almost dead. His old cell phone, the same one that was buried with him at his request in the will he wrote at 16 during a phase when he was obsessed with his own mortality. At the time, we thought it was just a teenage whim, but we respected his wish. "Zion, listen to me." I tried to organize my chaotic thoughts. "Do you remember Cypress Grove Memorial Park in Stone Mountain? That's where we buried you in the east wing near the big oak tree. If you're in the casket, that's where you are. Cemetery." His voice trembled. "I'm really dead. I don't know anymore, son. I don't know what's happening, but I'm coming there right now." "Mom, the battery's almost." His voice began to cut out. Scared. "Please help me." Zion, hang on. I'm coming." I screamed into the phone, but only heard the calended signal. He had hung up or the battery had died. Trembling, I tried to call his number back. Nothing. Just the automated message saying the number didn't exist, as if those brief minutes of conversation had never happened. I didn't stop to think about the logic or the impossibility of the situation. I threw a jacket over my pajamas, grabbed my car keys, and ran out to the garage. It was nearly 4:00 a.m. when I drove like a maniac through the deserted streets of Atlanta, running red lights, my heart beating so hard it felt like it would explode. The cemetery would be closed at that hour, but I knew the night watchman, Mr. Sillis. I suffered too. I just chose to deal with it differently. I closed my eyes, trying to calm down. Arguing with Darius wouldn't help me find answers. and deep down I knew he was right. It was an absurd, impossible story. Any rational person would doubt it. "I'm going to try calling him again," I said, grabbing the phone in front of him. "You'll see." I dialed Zion's number one more time, putting it on speaker. The automated message sounded loud and clear. "The number you have dialed does not exist." "See," Darius said gently. The phone in my hand started vibrating, interrupting him. On the screen, the name Zion flashed again. "It's him," I shouted, almost throwing the device. "Are you seeing this? Are you seeing this?" Darius's face went pale. He was seeing it. There was no denying it. With trembling hands, I answered the call and put it on speaker. "Zion," I called out, my voice barely working. "Mom," his voice sounded distant, choppy, as if the connection was bad. "Mom," I managed to charge the phone a bit. "There's a light now." Darius raised a hand to his mouth, eyes wide with shock. He was hearing the same voice I was. "Zion," I called louder, "your dad is here with me. We're on speaker. Dad." His voice seemed more alert. "Dad, is that you?" Darius swallowed, tears in his eyes. "Yes, son, it's me. What's happening to me? Why are they saying I'm dead?" I remember the accident, but then everything is hazy. I looked at Darius, unsure what to say. "How do you explain to someone that they've been dead for 15 years? "Zion." Darius took the lead. His voice choked. "You said there's a light now. What are you seeing?" "There's a type of flashlight here. It was in my jacket pocket along with the phone. I don't know how it still works, but I can see a little bit now. I'm in a wooden box. It's small. I can barely move." I felt the blood freeze in my veins. He was describing the casket. "What else do you see?" Darius asked, gripping my hand tightly. "There's a white cloth and I'm wearing weight. It's not my clothes. It's a suit. I never had a suit like this. The funeral clothes. The suit we bought for him to be buried in." Darius and I exchanged looks of horror. "Zion," my voice trembled. "Try to push the lid. See if you can open it." We heard sounds of struggle, groans. "I can't. It's too heavy. It feels like there's something on top. Dirt, maybe." Darius took the phone from my hand, holding it closer to his face. "Zion, listen to me. We need to understand what's happening. How long have you been conscious in there?" "I don't know." His voice sounded frustrated. "It's like I just woke up from a long, confusing dream. I remember parts of my life, school, friends, you guys, but there are a lot of blurry things. It's like I've been sleeping for a long time. And the accident, what do you remember?" "It was raining." Coming back from Jada's house, the bike slid on the curve. I saw the headlights coming at me very fast. Then pain, a lot of pain, and then nothing until I woke up here in the darkness. The description matched exactly what we knew about the accident, the police reports, the witness testimonies. "Zion," I called, taking the phone back. "What's the last date you remember?" "March 10th, 2010. A Wednesday, I had a physics test." The next day, Darius and I looked at each other again. "March 10th, 2010, the day of the accident, exactly 15 years ago. And do you remember?" I hesitated, not knowing how to ask. "Do you remember dying?" Silence on the other end, just his irregular breathing. "I don't know." His voice was almost a whisper. "Now I remember the pain, then a feeling of floating like I was being pulled upward. Bright lights, voices I didn't recognize, and then darkness until I woke up here. Mom, Dad, am I really dead? How do you answer that? How do you tell your own son that he did die, was viewed, mourned, and buried?" "Zion." Darius took over, sparing me from having to answer. "Something very strange is happening. We need to investigate. Do you think you can maintain contact with us? How much battery does the phone still have?" 30%, I think. "I don't know how it's still working after how long did you say?" 15 years, I replied, my voice failing. "It's 2025, son." My God, he seemed to be trying to absorb the information. So I'd be 32 now. It's so weird to think about. It feels like I was in high school yesterday. For him, it really had been. Time had stopped at the moment of the impact that took his life. 15 years in the blink of an eye. "Zion," Darius said, adopting a more practical tone. "We need to find a way to verify all this to understand what's happening. You said you have a flashlight. Can you look around? See if there's anything else with you in the casket." "I'll try." We heard sounds of movement restricted by the small space. "There are some dried flowers, a rosary, and an envelope." "An envelope?" I asked, surprised. "What kind of envelope?" "It looks like a letter. It has my name written on it." "The handwriting is yours, Mom." "The letter?" I had completely forgotten about it. The night before the funeral, I wrote a farewell letter to Zion and asked for it to be placed in the casket. A final message for my son, words I didn't have a chance to say while he was alive. "Can you open it?" I asked, remembering the intimate and painful content of that letter written at the height of despair. "Yeah, I'm opening it. My dearest Zion," he began reading aloud. "If there's a world beyond this one, know that you're reading these words and feeling all the love your mom has for you. He continued reading, and every word was like a knife piercing my heart. Words written 15 years ago on a night of unbearable pain, now coming back to me in the voice of the son they were addressed to. And one day when my time comes, we will be together again. Until then, I will love you and miss you with every breath. Your mom forever. His voice cracked as he finished reading. You wrote this for me. Yes, I confirmed, tears streaming freely down my face. The night before your funeral. So it's true. Zion's voice sounded defeated. I'm really dead, buried. But then how am I conscious? How am I talking to you? It was the question that tormented all of us. A question for which we had no answer. I don't know, son, Darius replied, putting an arm around my shoulders in a protective gesture that surprised me. But we're going to figure it out. I promise you we're not going to leave you alone in this. The battery is dying again, Zion said, his voice suddenly alarmed. I only have 10% now. It's going to turn off soon. Zion, listen, I spoke quickly. Going to try to find out what's happening. We're going to find a way to help you. Just don't despair. It's okay. We're here. We're going to find you somehow. I'm scared, Mom, he whispered, suddenly sounding like the boy who used to run to my bed during thunderstorms. I'm scared of being left alone in the darkness when the battery dies. I'm scared you won't be able to find me. We're going to find you, I promised, even though I had no idea how to keep that promise. Just hang on. Try to save the battery. Only call if it's really important. Okay, he agreed, his voice weak. Dad, Mom, I love you. We love you too, son, we replied in unison, just like in the old days when he was little and we were tucking him in. The call ended abruptly. The phone screen went back to normal as if nothing extraordinary had happened, but the tears in Darius's eyes confirmed that he had heard it too. It wasn't a hallucination. It wasn't madness. Somehow our son was contacting us from beyond the grave. What do we do now? I asked, wiping my tears with the back of my hand. Darius got up, packing the room, his analytical engineer's brain clearly working overtime. We need to be methodical. First, establish the facts. What do we know for sure? We know Zion died 15 years ago. We know we buried him. We know that somehow he's conscious and managed to call us. And what does that mean? Darius rubbed his face, suddenly looking much older. It's impossible for him to be alive in the casket, not after 15 years. I know, I shivered at the thought of the implications. So what? Ghost? Restless soul? Some kind of residual consciousness? Darius had always been the more skeptical of us, a man of science who believed only in what he could see and touch. Seeing him now, considering supernatural possibilities, showed how much that call had affected him. I don't know, but I know we need help. He grabbed his phone. I'm calling Kai. Kai Lewis, Darius's best friend since college, a forensic pathologist who worked at the county morgue, someone who would understand the scientific aspects of the situation. Do you think it's a good idea to involve more people? I questioned nervously. What if he thinks we're crazy? Kai knows me well enough to know I wouldn't make something like this up. Darius was already dialing. We need someone who understands the science part. And also, we're going to need some kind of authorization to exhume the body. The word exhumation made my stomach churn. The idea of digging up Zion, of seeing what was left of him after 15 years, was too disturbing. Do you really think we should do that? I asked, my voice low. Darius looked at me with a seriousness I hadn't seen in years. If that were you, trapped somewhere between life and death, wouldn't you want us to do everything in our power to help you? He was right. If there was any chance of helping our son, we needed to try. No matter how unsettling the idea was, Kai left shortly after, promising to immediately start the process for the exhumation authorization. Darius decided to stay with me, settling onto the living room couch. It was strange to have him back in the house we shared for so many years, the house where we raised our son, the house he abandoned when the grief became unbearable. Night fell, bringing with it a darkness that seemed denser, more oppressive than usual. Neither of us could sleep. We stayed in the living room, Darius on the couch, me in the armchair. The silence heavy between us, broken only by the occasional hoot of an owl or the whisper of leaves in the wind outside. You still keep his things, don't you? Darius suddenly asked, looking toward the hallway that led to Zion's room. Yes, I admitted. I didn't change anything. He nodded without judgment. Can I see? I guided him down the hall to the room that had remained untouched for 15 years. I opened the door slowly, as if afraid of waking someone. The smell of dust and stopped time greeted us. The curtains were drawn, but I turned on the light, revealing the sanctuary I had built for my son. The bed was still made with the Batman blanket he loved. Even though it was a kid's thing for a 17-year-old, the desk had school books piled on it, an unfinished math assignment in the open notebook, rock band posters on the walls, a pair of worn sneakers beside the bed, and his guitar in the corner covered in dust, silenced by time. Darius stood in the doorway, taking it all in. I saw his hands tremble slightly. "You accused me of moving on too quickly," he said softly. "Maybe you're right, but maybe it's because I couldn't do this. I couldn't preserve the memories like you did." He walked slowly through the room, touching the objects with reverence. He stopped in front of the trophy shelf, swimming, chess, science competitions. Zion had always been a brilliant boy, destined for great things, a life abruptly interrupted before it could fully bloom. "Look at this." Darius picked up a small black notebook from a half-open desk drawer, his journal. My heart raced. I never had the courage to read it. Me neither. He held the notebook carefully as if it were a precious artifact. "Maybe we should now. Maybe there's something in here that can help us understand." We sat down on Zion's bed, side by side, the journal between us. With trembling fingers, Darius opened to the first page. January 10th, 2010. He read aloud. "I had that dream again, the one about the accident so real. I woke up in a cold sweat. In the dream, I'm riding my bike in the rain. I see the headlights getting closer. I feel the impact. Then I'm floating above everything, watching my own broken body on the asphalt. It's terrifying, but also strangely peaceful." We exchanged alarmed glances. The dream's description corresponded exactly to the accident that would take his life 2 months later. A shiver ran down my spine. Darius continued reading, turning the pages carefully. The entries described the daily life of a normal teenager. Exams, friends, the girl he liked, arguments with his parents. But there was something else, something disturbing that was repeated in several entries. Dreams about his own death. Always the same scenario, always the same feeling of watching from the outside. March 1st, 2010, Darius read, his voice heavy. Just 10 days before the accident, the dream got more intense. This time, I saw the funeral. I saw Mom crying over my casket. I saw Dad trying to be strong, but falling apart when he thought no one was watching. I saw my friends standing in a circle, not knowing what to say. It's so vivid that I'm starting to wonder if they're really dreams or something else. Premonitions, warnings, I'm scared but also curious. My breathing failed. Zion had dreamed about his own death, his own funeral, weeks before it happened. He knew, I murmured, stunned. Somehow he knew what was going to happen. Darius turned to the last entry. It was dated March 10th, 2010, the day of the accident. Today is the day. I don't know how I'm so sure, but I am. Last night's dream was so real that I can still feel the impact. The metal tearing my skin, the bones breaking. I should be terrified, but strangely, I'm not. It's like it's inevitable, like it's destined. If something happens to me today, I want Mom and Dad to know I love them more than anything. And I also want them to know that it won't be the end. Somehow, I'm going to find a way back to them. I'm going to find a way to say I'm okay, that I just changed forms. P.S. If I'm right, please bury my cell phone with me. It might sound weird, but I have a feeling I'm going to need it. The journal fell from Darius's hands. The silence that followed was dense, loaded with impossible implications. He knew, I repeated, my voice almost inaudible. They weren't just dreams. He saw the future, and he knew that somehow, someday, he was going to contact us. "The cell phone," Darius murmured. He asked to be buried with the phone because he knew he was going to use it to communicate with us. The understanding of what was happening began to form in our minds, still hazy, still incomplete, but with more defined contours. Zion had somehow foreseen his own death, had prepared for it, and now, 15 years later, he was fulfilling his promise to find a way back to us. As if responding to our thoughts, my cell phone rang. Zion's name flashed on the screen. We answered together, Darius leaning in to listen. "Zion," I called out, my heart pounding. "Mom, Dad." His voice sounded different now, firmer, more assured. "You're in my room, right? You just finished reading my journal." I was paralyzed with shock. How do you know that?" "I can see you," he answered calmly. "I don't know how to explain it. It's like I'm in two places at once. I'm still here in the darkness, but I can also observe, like in the dreams I used to have." Darius took the phone, his eyes wide with shock. "Zion, are you saying you can see us right now?" "Yes. Mom is wearing that blue shirt I gave her for Mother's Day many years ago. You're holding my swimming trophy from the state championship." It was true. Darius had just grabbed the trophy from the shelf as we spoke. There was no way Zion could know that unless he could truly see us. "My God," Darius whispered, "this is terrifying." "I know," Zion completed. "It is for me, too. I'm learning to control this." At first, it was just darkness, but now it's like I can project my consciousness outward, see things, hear things. Can you see other people besides us? I asked, trying to grasp the scope of this impossible ability. Yes, I can see Kai at the precinct right now, filling out forms. You're processing the exhumation, aren't you? A shiver ran down my spine. How did he know about Kai? How did he know about the exhumation? Zion, what's happening to you? Darius asked, his voice trembling. Are you dead? Alive? What? There was a pause before the answer. I don't know exactly. My body is here, but it's not alive in the normal sense. It's preserved somehow as if time has stopped for it, but my consciousness is somewhere else. In many places at once. This is impossible, Darius murmured, the rational engineer struggling against the supernatural evidence. Many things are impossible until they happen, Zion replied. Mom always used to say that. Remember, it was true. It was one of my favorite sayings when Zion was little and said something was impossible. Son, I asked, trying to make sense of it all. Why now? Why wait 15 years to contact us? I didn't wait. His voice sounded almost surprised. For me, it was like waking up from a long sleep. I didn't realize so much time had passed. But now that I'm awake, I can feel time in a different way. I can see what I lost. I can see how much you suffered. And I can see that maybe I can return. Return. Darius and I spoke in unison. What does that mean? I'm not sure, Zion admitted. But I know you need to open the grave. I need you to get me out of there. There's something that needs to be done. Something I can't explain yet, like an instinct. Darius and I looked at each other, scared and hopeful at the same time. The idea of Zion returning somehow was as impossible as it was wonderful. We're trying, son, Darius assured him. Kai is taking care of the paperwork for the exhumation, but it might take days, maybe a week. That's too late, Zion's voice replied. Urgent. The connection is getting stronger, but it's temporary. I feel like there's a window of opportunity. If we miss it, I might not be able to return. How much time do we have? I asked, desperation rising. 3 days, maybe less. It's hard to explain, but I can feel it like a tide that rises and falls. I'm at the peak now, but it will start to diminish soon. Darius stood up determined. I'm going to talk to Kai. We're going to expedite the process. If we don't get the authorization in time, he didn't finish the sentence. But I understood what he meant. We would do whatever was necessary, legal or not. There's something else, Zion continued, his voice suddenly serious. I'm not alone here. There are others like me. People trapped between worlds. Some are confused, scared. Others are angry. Not everyone has good intentions. A shiver ran down my spine. What do you mean? Some want a return for the wrong reasons. Vengeance, obsession, power. If they find a way back like I'm trying to do, it would be dangerous, Darius concluded, his face grim. Very, Zion confirmed. I'm trying to hold them back, block the path, but I'm getting tired. I don't know how much longer I can. The implication was clear and terrible. Our son wasn't just trying to find a way back to us. He was serving as some kind of guardian, preventing other spirits with dark intentions from escaping. How can we help? I asked, determination replacing the fear. Just get me out of there, he replied. The rest I can try to solve once we're reunited somehow. The call started to fail. Zion's voice was choppy with static. I'm losing connection. Battery dying. Zion. I screamed into the phone. Hold on. We're coming for you. I know you will. His voice was just a whisper now. I love you both very much. And then silence. The call had dropped. Darius already had his phone in hand calling Kai. He spoke quickly, urgently, explaining the need to speed up the process. I watched him, a new resolve growing within me. If bureaucracy didn't work in time, we would take matters into our own hands. The next 24 hours were a race against time. Kai used all his influence at the morgue and the police department to accelerate the authorization. Darius mobilized old work colleagues, some with political connections. I stayed home, waiting for new calls from Zion, the phone always within reach. The volume turned up high. He didn't call again that day or the next. Anxiety grew with every passing hour. Kai assured us that the authorization would be issued within 48 hours, fast by bureaucratic standards, but still potentially too late, according to Zion's warning. On the morning of the third day, Darius and Kai arrived with news. The authorization comes out this afternoon, Kai explained, his face tired from lack of sleep. They scheduled the exhumation for tomorrow morning. That's too late, I replied, remembering Zion's warning. He said 3 days at most. Today is the third day. Darius and Kai exchanged meaningful looks. We have an alternative plan. Darius spoke softly as if afraid of being overheard. It's not legal, but the cemetery watchman, Kai completed, Mr. Silas. He agreed to let us in tonight after closing. He'll bring the necessary equipment. We'll do everything discreetly. And then I asked, even if we manage to open the casket, what will we do? We can't just take whatever we find there. One step at a time, Darius replied. First, we need to see what's inside. Understand what Zion meant by return. We spent the day in a state of contained anxiety, preparing for the night. Kai brought dark clothing for everyone, flashlights and tools. Darius prepared the car with fake documents in case we were stopped by the police. I packed food, water, and blankets, acting more out of Mother's instinct than logic. By 10 p.m., the cemetery had been closed for an hour. We drove there in silence, each lost in our own thoughts. Mr. Silas was waiting for us at the back gate, his face grim but determined. I have everything ready, he said quietly. The tools are hidden near the grave. No one comes here at this hour, but we need to be fast and quiet. The cemetery at night was a completely different place. Shadows seemed to move between the graves, and the silence was broken only by the occasional hoot of an owl or the rustling of leaves in the wind. We followed Mr. Silas along side paths, avoiding the main trails where the moonlight made us more visible. Zion's grave beneath the big oak tree seemed to be waiting for us. Beside it, hidden under bushes, was a small hydraulic shovel, the kind used for minor construction in confined spaces. I borrowed it from the maintenance crew, Mr. Silas explained. It will save us hours of manual labor. Kai and Darius immediately got to work, operating the small machine carefully to minimize noise. The soil over Zion's grave was compacted after 15 years, but the machine cut through it with surprising efficiency. I stood guard, my eyes alert for any movement, my ears sharp for any sound that didn't belong to the night. My cell phone was in my pocket, silent, but ready for any new contact attempt from Zion. After nearly an hour of work, the hydraulic shovel struck something solid. The sound of the machine hitting wood made my heart jump. The casket, Darius announced in a whisper. Now we need to work by hand. The three men grabbed manual shovels and began carefully clearing the dirt around the casket, revealing its contours. I moved closer, unable to stay away at that crucial moment. The casket looked well preserved, protected by the dry soil. It's a good casket, Mr. Silas murmured. Treated wood, sealed against moisture, explains why it's so well preserved. When they finally cleared enough dirt to expose the entire lid, Darius and Kai positioned themselves on either side. Ready. Darius asked, looking at each of us. I nodded, unable to speak. Kai took a deep breath. Preparing for whatever we might find, Mr. Silas made the sign of the cross. Together, the two men lifted the casket lid. The smell that escaped was not the smell of decomposition we feared, but a strange, almost medicinal scent. A soft bluish light emanated from within, illuminating the surprised faces of the men. I pushed my way between them to look. Nothing could have prepared me for the sight that awaited me. Zion was there, his body perfectly preserved as if he had been buried yesterday. There were no signs of decomposition, no signs of the 15 years that had passed. His face looked asleep, serene. He wore the same dark suit from the funeral, his hands crossed over his chest. Beneath them, glowing with that strange bluish light, was his old cell phone. My God, Kai murmured, the scientist in him struggling to comprehend the impossible before his eyes. This can't be real. There should only be bones. Darius reached out a trembling hand, touching our son's face. He's warm, not cold like a corpse, not hot like a living person, just warm. The sight was so surreal, so far outside any known logic or science, that for a moment none of us could move. It was as if time had been suspended inside that casket, preserving Zion exactly as he was on the day of his funeral. Slowly, I moved forward and touched his face. The skin was firm, elastic like that of a living person, but there was no pulse, no visible breathing, just that strange intermediate temperature, neither alive nor dead. The phone, I pointed out, it's glowing, it was true. The small blue Nokia beneath his hands emitted that supernatural light illuminating the inside of the casket. When I leaned in to touch it, the screen lit up on its own, displaying a message. Get me out of here. Take me home. I have little time. We didn't hesitate. Darius and Kai, with the help of Mr. Silas, carefully removed Zion's body from the casket. He was lighter than he should have been, as if the matter of his body had been partially replaced by something less dense, less physical. Together, we wrapped Zion in the blanket I had brought and carried him back to the car. The cell phone in his hand continued to glow, now pulsing like a heart, the rhythm accelerating as we drove away from the cemetery. No one spoke during the journey. What could we say in the face of something so far beyond our comprehension? We decided to take him to my house, the house where he grew up, the last place he lived. It felt right. Kai and Mr. Silas helped us carry him inside, placing him gently on his own bed in the room that had remained untouched for 15 years. "I've never seen anything like it in my entire career," Kai murmured, still examining Zion's motionless body. There are no conventional vital signs, but there is also no rigor mortis or any sign of decomposition. It's as if he's in a completely different state of matter. The cell phone in Zion's hand flashed again, displaying a new message. Water, sunlight, music. We looked at each other, confused until I understood. He's telling us what he needs. I quickly brought a glass of water and pressed it against his lips. To our surprise, he seemed to absorb the liquid, although there was no movement in his throat. I opened the curtains, allowing the rising sun's light to bathe his face. Darius found the old radio on the nightstand and turned it on to a station playing classical music, the kind Zion always liked. The phone flashed again. "Thank you. Now I need to rest. Tomorrow." Kai and Mr. Silas left shortly after, promising to return in the morning. Both swore to keep what they had witnessed a secret. Darius and I remained in Zion's room, one on each side of the bed, watching our son in his impossible state, neither alive nor dead. "What happens now?" I whispered, holding Zion's inert but strangely warm hand. Darius shook his head. "I don't know, we're in unknown territory." But he asked us to bring him home, and we did. Now we need to trust him. We spent the night in silent vigil. At some point I fell asleep in the chair beside the bed. I dreamt of Zion, not the teenager I had lost, but an adult man as he would have been if he had lived. In the dream, he smiled and said, "It's almost time, Mom, just a little longer." I woke up at dawn to a strange humming filling the room. Darius had also woken up, looking around, confused. The source of the sound was Zion's cell phone, which was now glowing intensely, the bluish light pulsing at an increasingly rapid rhythm. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, Zion's body began to change. The skin, which had been deathly pale, gained color. The previously rigid fingers moved slightly. The eyes, closed for 15 years, trembled beneath the lids as if in a deep sleep. "Darius," I whispered, grabbing his hand. "Something is happening." The humming intensified, becoming almost unbearable. The light from the cell phone expanded, enveloping Zion's entire body in a cocoon of light. For a terrible moment, I thought he might be disintegrating, vanishing before our eyes. But then I realized he was transforming. The teenage face softened, the contours subtly shifting, aging. The body beneath the funeral suit seemed to fill out, gaining mass and height. It was like watching 15 years pass in a matter of minutes. Time, recovering its normal course, accelerated. And then, as suddenly as it began, everything stopped. The humming went silent. The light retracted into the cell phone before turning off completely. The room returned to normal, illuminated only by the rising sun. Zion opened his eyes. They were no longer the eyes of a 17-year-old boy, but the eyes of a 32-year-old man, the age he would be now. His face had changed, matured, though it was still unmistakably him. His body had grown, making the funeral suit tight in the shoulders and short at the wrists. "Mom." His voice was deeper, more resonant. "Dad." We fell on him in a desperate embrace, tears flowing freely. It was impossible. It was a miracle. It was our son returning from the dead, not as a ghost or a zombie, but as a living, whole man who seemed to have lived every one of the 15 years he had lost. "How?" That was all Darius could say, holding Zion's face in his hands, examining him with Arok eyes. Zion smiled, an adult smile with fine lines at the corners of his eyes that hadn't been there before. "It's complicated. I don't fully understand it myself. Time works differently on the other side," he continued. "It's not linear like it is here. I lived many lives there. I learned things, I grew. When I realized there was a way back, that I could return if the conditions were right." He looked at the cell phone, now plain and ordinary, in his hand. "This was the link, the connection that kept me tied to this world. And you, too, were the beacon that guided me back." "But how is this possible?" I asked, still unable to fully believe the miracle before me. "Your science doesn't have words for this yet," Zion replied gently. "Alternative states of consciousness. The important thing is that I'm here. I returned, not exactly as I was, but," he looked at his own hands, now larger, stronger, with small scars and calluses that weren't there before. "This body reflects the experiences I had there, the growth, the learning, as if I lived those 15 years elsewhere." Darius, ever the pragmatic one, was already thinking of the implications. How are we going to explain this? Legally, you're dead. You don't exist in the system. Zion smiled again. We'll have time to figure that out. Kai can help. Maybe a story about a mistaken identity, amnesia, something like that. The important thing is that I'm back. His face suddenly grew serious. But I'm not the only one who found the way. Others are trying to follow. Like I warned, not all with good intentions. What can we do? I asked, determination replacing the fear. For now, nothing. I closed the portal behind me as best I could, but we need to be vigilant. He looked out the window at the world outside, a world he hadn't seen in 15 years. So many things have changed. I have a lot to learn about this life again. In the days that followed, we watched in wonder as Zion readjusted to life. His body worked perfectly, although at times he seemed clumsy, as if learning to use muscles that had been dormant for a long time. His mind was sharp, absorbing information with impressive speed, adapting to the technological and social changes of the last 15 years. Kai helped with the legal side, creating an elaborate story of mistaken identification and prolonged amnesia. It wasn't perfect, but with his connections and a bit of record manipulation, he managed to establish a new identity for Zion. Not as someone resurrected from the dead, but as someone who never truly died. As for me, I went from grieving mother to mother of an adult son in a matter of days. It was strange, disorienting, and wonderful. Zion was no longer the boy I lost, but a complex man with knowledge and skills that transcended his earthly education. Sometimes I found him gazing at the horizon with a distant expression, as if he were seeing things none of us could comprehend. In those moments, I realized that part of him was still connected to the other side, the mysterious place where his consciousness had resided for 15 years. One evening, sitting on the porch watching the stars, I asked him if he missed that place. Sometimes, he admitted, it was peaceful there in a way. No physical limitations, no weight of linear time, but it lacked something essential. What? I asked. He smiled. That smile that was both familiar and new. This humanity connection, the beauty of being alive with all its imperfections and challenges. It's worth being here, even knowing that one day I'll have to leave again. I held his hand, larger, stronger, and more callous than the hand of the boy I buried, but still unmistakably the hand of my son. When that day comes, I'll be ready to let you go, I promised. This time I'll know it's not goodbye forever. Zion nodded, his eyes reflecting the wisdom of someone who had lived between worlds. It's never goodbye forever, Mom. Only see you soon. I buried my son 15 years ago. I visited his grave religiously every Sunday. I kept his room intact as a sanctuary to his memory. And then on an ordinary night, my phone rang with a call from beyond. Today, he sits beside me, not as the boy I lost, but as the man he became on another plane of existence. Death, I learned, is not the end of the story. Sometimes it's just the beginning of a new and extraordinary journey. Did you like the story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending us super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story, with love and respect.